Okay, so this is the HAOQI Antelope Pro cargo bike, and this they call this a cargo bike, but it kind of is basically a step through fat tire bike that has a rear rack. When I think of cargo bike, I think of something with like a really long wheelbase, but this is a very normal wheelbase, so it handles very easily and you can carry some cargo stuff. But there's a couple of things that they could do to make it a real cargo bike, which we'll talk about later on in the video. But anyway, bike comes very well packaged. It has two batteries that you see me taking out of there, and it has a 750 watt uh, rear hub motor and 25 amp hour batteries. It's divided up into two batteries, and I think it's more like 24 amp hour because the first battery pack is like 11 and a half amp hours, and the second one is 12 and a half amp hours. So if you add that together, that's probably like 24 amp hours. But this is pretty standard. You just have to take off the stem handlebar bracket. Here we are taking that off. You put the handlebar on and screw those in. Then you got to put the front wheel on and then put the fender on and the light on. The light is quite good, and the batteries come in together. Oh, there's one that's under the frame, and then one that goes behind the seat post. And then after that, you're good to go. The bike comes with two separate chargers because the batteries need to be charged separately. They take the same plug, so you can usually just plug one. You could use one charger and plug it into one battery, and then when that's done, plug it into the second battery. Or you can use both chargers simultaneously, but it comes with two chargers. It has metal pedals, which I really appreciate, and pretty easy to put together. If you know anything about bicycles, if you need some help, you can definitely take it to a local bike shop, and they shouldn't have any issues doing that. The seat is pretty comfortable and has a lot of adjustment, and the website says you can use it from 5'1" to 6'8". That's probably fairly accurate. I'm 5'11", and there's a lot of room on either side to make it work. The fenders are going in now, and here's the front light, which is pretty easy. It comes with its own tool set, which works out pretty well. The website claims that it has like 65 to 80 miles of range, which I think is a gross overestimation, but that's for every e-bike company. They grossly overestimate how much range it gets. So let's take it out for a spin. And this is a really steep hill in my town. It is a 10% grade, and I'm going up just on throttle alone, and it kind of bogs down to about 11 miles per hour and then pulls up 11 miles per hour. That's pretty good. I've taken it up this hill with pedaling, and with pedaling a moderate amount, you can easily climb at 22, 23 miles per hour, which isn't a problem. This bike is a little bit slower than the other two bikes. The other two bikes will cruise around 27 to 28 miles per hour on flat land. That's the Engwe and the Vetania bike. This one wants to cruise on flats about 24 miles per hour. I mean, it will give you, the motor does assist you all the way up to about 30, but the amount of assist drops off around the mid 20s. So I think it's not a motor issue because the motor does pull fairly hard. It doesn't launch as hard as the other two bikes either, but I kind of like it. It's very gradual. It's more controllable, and the speed difference isn't that big of a deal. I wish that the bike was geared higher. I don't really know why they put 7 speeds on this thing and have it geared down so low. There's really no need to gear it down that low, unless, of course, I guess if you run out of batteries and you have to climb hills with 0 assist, you might appreciate the lower gears. But really, I always just leave it on the highest gear, and it's not high enough. I wish that the gearing went much higher. So I think a larger chain ring would help this out quite a bit. But it's very comfortable to ride, and works very well. And you see here, I'm going downhill, and on throttle, it wants to go maybe 27, 28, and I'm going downhill. It says that its top speed is 28, but I think that's 28 on a slight downhill. On the flats, it will go maybe mid 20s. But that's probably fast enough for most uses. And as a cargo bike, it works out. That's plenty fast. Okay, let's look at some details of the bike. So you turn it on by pushing this middle button. Okay, here we go. There we go. So on the top right, you'll see on the top left, you see the battery. On the top right, that gives you how many watts it's putting out and the time. And that's the amount of pedal assist. You can go up to 5. So it has 5 levels of pedal assist up and down there. And then it gives an odometer here. So you see I've put in about 90 miles on this bike. It's got a twist throttle right there. And you can see that with no resistance, if I'm just twisting the throttle, it goes up to 30. So it will assist you to 30, but you see that the wattage goes to like 78 watts. So the watts go way down. So I think it's a controller issue. If the controller was programmed differently, it could give you 1,000 watts at 30 miles per hour, which definitely it would pull to that. It would probably easily pull to 30 miles per hour on the flats if the controller was programmed a little differently. It has a temperature sensor, which is interesting. I don't know why you really need that on a bike, but you see it's 53 degrees. It's got a little bell, which is a fun feature for neighborhood, tooling around the neighborhood. It's got this basket in the front that attaches via the rear wheel, and here's the rear rack. The rear rack would be better if you could put a very large basket on the thing. As it stands, you can put that small baskets in the front. You could also put it in the back, but it doesn't. It's not great as a cargo carrier because the basket is way too small. And then, as we come up to the front here, you see that there are 2 batteries. There's a battery behind the rear, and it requires 2 different keys to take this out. Even though it's the same bike, it requires 2 different keys, which makes me think that they source the batteries from 2 different suppliers that are just commodity batteries that are probably, these suppliers are supplying it to several other companies. So here's a plug on this side to charge that battery. And then there's a plug on, see, there's one plug here, and then the other plug is right here. And they use the same plug, and again, the bike comes with 2 chargers, so you could charge both batteries simultaneously. Okay, so, and also, so you see, there comes 2 different sets of keys. So one key works the front battery, and that's obviously from a different supplier, and you take it out like that, and it's replaceable. And this looks like a very standard battery I've seen on other e-bikes. If you look at this, it has 11.86 amp hours. So there's 11.6 amp hours in the frame here. And then you just lock it into place there. Then if you use the other battery, other key, then you can unlock this one behind the seat post. So you put it in there, twist, and then it pulls out from the bottom. And this one has a 12.5 amp hours. So if you add the 2 together, it's actually more like 24 amp hours, not 25 amp hours, as is suggested on their website. So that's 1 amp hour off. This bike is currently going for about $15.99, and there's a coupon code below for $50 off. And so I think that's a really good deal. It's a very well-made bike. You can see the welds are very good along the frame. The plate that holds the rear battery is placed on. It has mechanical disc brakes rather than hydraulic disc brakes, but the brakes work great. They work fine. They stop very well, and there's no issues with them. It comes with a Bafang motor, and that is kind of a well-known brand. So it's not their own brand. They're getting it from this company, and so I think it's a very strong, high-quality motor. And of course, the metal pedals are a nice touch. And then the central part right here, it kind of makes it look like it's a mid-drive motor system, but I believe this is where the controller is housed. It's not a mid-drive, it's a rear hub drive motor. Bike is perfect for a quick grocery run. My wife asked me to pick up some bread, and so instead of taking it in the car, I took this, and you can hear what the motor sounds like. And this is on a slight uphill, so it's going about 21 miles per hour. Okay, so what do I like and dislike about this bike? Okay, first, I like that this is the one time that I think having a fat bike actually makes sense. In general, I'm not a big fan of the fat tire bikes. They're very heavy and the rolling resistance is really high, and I just don't feel like the trade-off is worth it. Some people really like the look of it. It does make the bike much more comfortable to ride. And of course, if you're going over sand or loose stuff, the fat tires are gonna be helpful, especially like if you're doing snow or sand, that kind of stuff. But for most instances, I just don't feel like the weight and the rolling resistance is worth the payoff. However, on a big bike like this that's meant for carrying cargo, I think it makes sense. It does, it's a good use for a fat tire bike, in my opinion. Okay, this I think is a really nice look. I don't know if this is practical or not, but they've cut out little holes in the rim here, I think to make it lighter. I'm not sure that going for lightness is what they were going for, because the bike is very heavy anyway, but I think it looks nice. You can feel the inside lining, the rim tape basically, and it's quite tense. So I hope this is not a problem, and I don't think it is, but I think it's a cool look. The brakes are really good. I love that it has a basket in the front. The basket is very, very useful. See, it has these little bolts that put the basket in. I'd like it if the basket was a little bigger, in fact. They have these baskets that are kind of like open-ended in the front that you can like add things that stick out more. I think those kinds of baskets would be cooler. These lights are really good, and the range is amazing. So about 43 miles at highest boost, going as fast as we can. So that's great. And it's a very comfortable bike, and I think it looks good, and it's built very solidly. It feels solid. There's no creaks. The welds are really nice. They look like they're well done. Okay, now what do I wish was different about this bike? One thing, right here, when the shocks compress all the way, if you hit a big bump, this basket will hit this light and make it flip down like this, and then you'll have to flip it back up. It's not a huge deal, and bumps big enough to do that are pretty rare, but if they would have made this a little lower or positioned this basket a little higher, just 1 inch I think would have made a difference, and you would have to never deal with that. Two, it is a little annoying that you have to charge it twice. This charge port, and then the charge port over here. So you have to charge it twice. Now, like I said, they include 2 chargers, so you can plug in 2 places and charge it simultaneously. But it would be nice if they just had 1 charge port that charged both batteries. It's a minor inconvenience, but I wish that they would have changed that. I wish the gearing was a little different. This chain ring, if they made it a little bit bigger, you could pedal and assist it up to 30. It is a little slower than the other bikes, but that doesn't bother me too much. I really like the kickstand. That's another thing I forgot to mention. The biggest thing that I wish that they would change about this bike is to really commit to it being a cargo bike. I think they should have made this platform a little longer, and instead, you see, you can mount this basket. You can mount it right here, but that's not very much cargo carrying capacity. They should put a huge basket on here, and that would make it a real cargo bike. That's the one thing I wish they would do, and I think they can still do that. If they would just manufacture a large basket that bolts down right here, that would make it perfect. I think that one change, if there's 2 things I could change about it, I would make a giant basket for the back, and I would increase the size of this chain ring in the front. That's pretty much it. If you did that, this would be a really, really kind of a perfect cargo bike.